So from the content point of view, it's very hard to differentiate fake news and real news. And also from the social context point of view, because social media data is very big and is incomplete, and also sometimes unstructured, and also often is very noisy. So even though you know that so many fake news pieces that are spreading on social media, but how to use social media data to help detect fake news is still a challenging problem. So that's why the major issue is that we need to explore this auxiliary information from social media in addition to news content to solve this problem. So next I will talk about several pieces of work in our lab to try to tackle this fake news problem. So the first paper, as I mentioned by Dr. Liu, is we published a survey last year, which is called Fake News Detection on Social Media Data Mining Approach. So this survey has got a lot of attention. So we have, like, one example is we have been covered by KD Nuggets. And then we write basically a brief introduction of this survey. And you can see the link in this slide. If you're interested, you can look into the details. And also we have got some interviews from industry leaders and who are working with fake news problems. So we talk about how this kind of fake news problem can be solved in industry and also in academia. So you can also find this interview here. I also attach the link. So basically, this survey paper gives a comprehensive overview of fake news problem. And basically, we try to characterize fake news. What are the essential psychology and the social foundations that cause fake news problem a big issue? And also, we also discuss about fake news detection methods. So next, I will briefly go through some very interesting aspects from the characterization and also from the detection point of view. So for characterization, we try to understand why people they are gullible to fake news and why it's spreading so crazy on social media. So we try to understand the theories behind fake news problem. And based on these theories understanding, we try to go one step further. We try to use these theories to try to build machine learning algorithms and to try to differentiate fake news and real news. So you can look at this figure. I will first introduce some social theories and the psychology theories behind fake news, and then I will move on to how to detect fake news. So from the psychology point of view, actually, we have several theories that related to fake news to explain why people are gullible to fake news. The first is about naive realism. So it's basically that people tend to believe that their perceptions of reality are the only accurate views. This is essentially what is naive realism. So the second one is about confirmation bias. So confirmation bias, talking about people tend to prefer those information that confirms their existing beliefs. So if you look at this figure on the bottom right, so some people may see the word no, but some people may see the word yes. It all depends on your own beliefs, existing beliefs. So this is the psychology issues behind that. So for example, in fake news, right? So because you have already the basic understanding of this society, and then when you see a news piece, it sometimes depends on you to determine, okay, this is fake and this is real. Because if this news confirms your existing understanding of the society, then it's more likely you think it's a real news. Otherwise, it's fake. So that's why, like as a human, it's very hard to really to differentiate fake and real news because we have these psychology issues. And then also we have some social theories that back up these issues. There are many theories in our paper, but I will list these two to give you an example. The first one is about normative influence theory, which means that people may prefer to this social acceptance in this group. So even though you think this news is fake, but other people in your group think it's real, then you are more likely to say, okay, this is real. because you want this group to identify you, to accept you as a member of this group. And another theory is about social identity theory, which means that an individual's self-concept derives from the perceived membership in a relevant social group, which is similar to this influence theory, which essentially says your identity is recognized by your group membership and group attributes. So these are the two examples of social theories that makes people to spread fake news on social media so crazy. Next, I will move to why social media becomes this weapon or this major outlets to spread fake news. So there are some unique characteristics of social media that make fake news a new problem. So the first one is called echo chamber. So if you look at this figure on the right, so people on social media, they form different groups. So groups, they are more like segmented, and two different groups, they usually don't talk with each other. So if you are a member of a single group, for example, in this blue group, then that everyone in this blue one, they believe the same thing, then there is no conflicting view coming into this group. So there's a problem called this echo chamber. So everyone talks about the same thing. Everyone believes the same information. And another phenomenon is called the filter bubble, which is mainly caused by these social media sites. For example, if you to Facebook or other like Twitter, then they may recommend a list of information or newsfeed to your homepage. So this information are actually filtered by these social media sites. They try to recommend information that meets your own interests, but also there's other issue is you cannot receive actually some conflicting information from this newsfeed, so that your information is isolated. It's like a bubble and separated from other information as well. So these are the unique characteristics on social media that makes fake news really a big issue and a challenging issue. So also we have some malicious accounts on social media. So not every account in social media is like a real human. So for example, we have social bots, which means those accounts that are controlled by some computer algorithms that they automatically produce something, information. They are not real humans. And also we have trolls. So actually trolls, they are real humans, but they try to make people on social media to be angry, and they try to trigger their own emotion response to make them not that rational to this information on social media. And also we have cyborg users, which they are actually the human registered accounts, but they are actually controlled by computer algorithms. So we have all of these kind of malicious accounts that's on social media that can be used by this bad person to spread fake news, so that to mislead people's beliefs. So these are all the very unique and challenging issues unique to social media that makes fake news a real issue. So we have talked about what are the theories, social theories and psychology theories that makes fake news a problem. So next, I will talk about how we can detect fake news. I will first talk about what are the existing work that try to solve this problem, right? Even though it's very challenging. So to look at these existing algorithms, we first look at those algorithms, try to look at the news contents itself, differentiate fake and real news. And then I will talk about mainly two kinds of methods. One is called knowledge-based. Knowledge-based, the basic idea is that they use external sources, such as fact-checking website. They try to check these claims in these news pieces one by one and determine whether it's fake or not. So the basic idea is, you can look at this figure, is on the left side is they try to extract facts from like website or other like Wikipedia, these the web pages. And then after they have these facts, then they try to use this as a knowledge base that can be backed up to support their checking on some newly coming news to see, okay, whether this news is fake or not. So that's basically the basic idea of using knowledge-based algorithm to detect fake news. But there's an issue I will talk about next. And the next one is about style-based. they try to understand the writing style of fake news and real news. Because essentially, those people, they write fake news, they want to somehow manipulate something, right? So there must be something that can be captured in terms of writing style, which is different from real news. So they also try to understand this linguistic style to differentiate fake and real news. And next, it's more advanced because we have discussed that social media becomes a very unique platform, and there are some unique characteristics can be used to detect fake news. So also there's some existing work using social context information to try to find the patterns that can differentiate fake news and real news. The first one is about stance-based. Stance basically means about users' viewpoints or their opinions about the relevant news content in social media. For example, if you go to Twitter, you can see that after there's a news post, people can retweet it, they can comment it, they can like it. All of this kind of information, they are expressing the user's own stance to this news that can be used to better differentiate fake news and real news. And the other one is about propagation-based. So the basic idea is to learn some relevant social media posts to guide the propagation of credibility scores. For example, if you look at this figure, the left side is an example of the information propagation on social network. So user one posts some news, some post about this news, and then user two retweet his tweet at time two. So we can construct this kind of propagation network, and then to extract some informative features from this network, we can actually look at it from two aspects. The first aspect is to look at it from the temporal point of view. So we can look at this from T1, T2, T3, T4, what are the users' opinions towards this news. Here, actually, we can use some advanced deep learning algorithms, such as LSTM, to model this temporal engagement of users to find some features to represent these news articles. And also, we can look at these social relations in the bottom as well. So these are all existing work trying to solve this problem, which is covered in our survey paper. If you want to look more details, you can look into our survey papers. So, okay, next I'll introduce more about our approaches in our lab, with how we try to solve fake news problem. So basically, I will talk about 4 research questions we try to answer. The first one is how to build a tool that can be used for fake news collection, action, and visualizations. And the second question is about how to build a benchmark data set for fake news detection. And also, as mentioned by Dr. Liu earlier, like the real issue for fake news is not only about how to find detection algorithm. It's really about how to find a reliable data set that have ground truths of fake and real news that can be used by research community and as well as the industry practitioners. The third question is about, can we use information from both news contents and also social context simultaneously to detect fake news? And the fourth question is about, can we detect fake news in an unsupervised way? This is also related to this data set issue, because we don't have large data set can be used to detect fake news in supervised way. Then we think about, can we use the supervisor method to detect it? So I will cover these 4 questions and basically introduce 4 pieces of work in our lab. The first is about, we built a tool called Fake News Tracker. And this is a paper published in SPP this year. Actually, this work has been recognized as the best tool in the disinformation challenge. We got this best award of this disinformation challenge. So you can also look at this paper in my website. So basically, in this tool, we try to build a end-to-end framework which covers fake news data collection and fake news detection and also visualization. So for collection, we have built a tool that can automatically collect fake news and real news from some fact-checking website, which we think is most reliable sources for fake news and real news in a periodical way. So we can do this automatically in the backend. And then for detection, we develop a deep learning framework which can utilize this temporal user engagement, and also this text information to detect fake news. And for the visualization, we can visualize this all kinds of fake news attributes, and then we can show the detection result. So this is several examples of the interface of our fake news tracker, and I will also share this the link to this tool. So basically, in this, for example, the first one can show the trends, Twitter, like from the temporal point of view, how many fake news is spreading in Twitter. So we can show this tendency, and also we can show these topics difference between fake news and real news, and then we can show the geolocation, like where are the users spreading fake news and real news, and at last we can show this social network of those users. So these are all those very important attributes try to visualize that can help people to understand the users' profiles and then the topics difference and so on. So this is online. We will share the link in the slides as well, so you can take a look at. So the next piece of work is to try to answer the question about how we can build a reliable benchmark dataset for fake news detection that can benefit the research communities, also and people who are interested in fake news detection. So we built a data repository called fake.net. This dataset is already publicly available. So we have put this dataset in the GitHub and also Kaggle. I already put a link in this slide. You can look at these details of the dataset and in this website as well. So we have got a lot of attention of this dataset. So people from different groups, they are all using this dataset to try to understand fake news. So basically, this dataset is one of the most comprehensive dataset right now, because in this dataset contain information from news context, social context, as well as spatial temporal information. As you can see in this table, we compared with some existing dataset that researchers published fake news detection. Then you can see that actually our dataset at the very bottom, fake news net, covers most comprehensive information that can be utilized to understand and detect fake news. So you can learn more about. Actually, we have a paper. We put this paper in the archive, so you can also find more details about this dataset. We have done some analysis and also some data understanding of this dataset. So next, I will talk more about the research point of view. Like in our lab, we try to detect fake news. So this is the paper called "Beyond the News Contents: The Role of Social Context for Fake News Detection." So this paper is published at the ACM Wisdom Conference. It's going to be the next year, February. In this paper, we try to utilize information from both news contents and the social context to detect fake news. I will describe some basic idea of these methods. So, as you know that you can think about the fake news spreading process, right? There are essentially three entities. The first one is the publisher who publish fake news, and then the second entity is the news pieces itself, and the third one is the end users. So among these three entities, we have different relations that can be used. The first one is the publishing relation. If you look at this figure, we have the publisher P1 can publish fake news or real news, and also publisher P2 can publish real news and fake news. So we have this between this publisher and the news, we have this publishing relationship you can use. And in addition, between the news and the users on social media, we have these spreading relations. So which user spread which piece of news. So we can also model this spreading relation. And the third is the social relation among these users. As we mentioned before, when we talk about these social theories that on social media can be used, is we talk about the echo chamber, right? So echo chamber basically says that people tend to form a relationship with the like-minded people. It's basically the people are liking themselves. So we also try to use that theory to guide our modeling of this social relationship between these users. So we have all these three users, and then we propose a tri-relationship embedding framework. Tri-relation means this, we try to understand the relationship between these three entities. So this, I don't want to go to the details about this problem, this mathematical formula, but essentially the idea is that you try to embed in these relations and then try to build a feature vector of the news, which can be used to detect fake news. So we try to build the embedding from maybe two perspectives. The first one is the news content embedding. So the first one is we look at this news content, and then we embed it into low-dimension features to try to find the clues from the news content itself. And then we model this publisher-news relation, as I mentioned in the figure. And then from the social context point of view, we first extract user features by modeling the user social networks, and then we understand the user news relations. So by combining all these embedding features together, we build a network embedding methods that can extract fake news, that can extract news representations, and then further detect fake news. So these are the results. So we can see that we compared with methods that use, for example, news contents itself, and then use social context itself, and then those which use news contents and social context simultaneously. So we can see that those social context information actually are very important, because these methods can essentially have better performance than those news content-based methods. And also we can see that the proposed methods can perform the best compared with all previous baselines. So yeah, I just introduced the basic idea of this paper, and then more details can be found in this my webpage. I already put this complete version as well. So go to the next question: is since this labeled fake news dataset is so limited, can we detect fake news in an unsupervised way? So this paper is published in AAAI, which is to be held in Hawaii next year. I also introduced the basic idea, like how we can detect fake news in an unsupervised way. So as I mentioned, that users on social media, they can express their own opinions towards specific news pieces, right? For example, on the left side, there's a tweet. He's talking about some news pieces, and he is agree about this news. They express agree viewpoint. And on the right side, you can see there's a tweet that actually he says that this news is false. So basically, he expressed his doubting opinions. So we try to utilize these users' opinions as signals to indirectly to detect fake news. But there's a problem, right? As I said, not all users on social media, they are reliable. That's why we need to consider this user credibility. So in this model, we proposed a hierarchical probabilistic model, which we can capture those users' opinions as well as user credibility simultaneously, then to extract features to do unsupervised fake news detection. So basic idea is, if you look at this figure, we have the first level is the news, and the second level is those tweets, posts, right? And then the second level is basically we try to use this verified users because we think they are more reliable. And the third level is those users who like for liking or commenting or like replying this the second level tweets. So these are mostly unverified users. So after we build this hierarchical model, then we propose a probabilistic model to extract the features. So essentially, we have these following three assumptions. The first one is that we assume that the news is generated from a Bernoulli distribution. And then the second one is that we assume that the user credibility Yij actually is generated with a beta distribution. And the third one is because we try to model the user opinions. So the user opinion is dependent on the user credibility and the news labels. So these are the basic three assumptions we have used in the paper and then based on this assumption, we build the probabilistic models. So for more details, you can look at these papers. But the essential idea is like we try to use these users' opinions as well as considering their abilities to detect fake news. Yeah, these are the results. So basically, we compared with different unsupervised methods. For example, the majority voting, which say, okay, we just consider different users the same. Basically, we didn't utilize their credibilities. We just majority voting, which shows it's not that good. And our methods compared with others can show the effectiveness for unsupervised fake news detection. So yeah, so you can. I also list several recent work in our lab for fake news detection here. So we have a survey which provides a comprehensive overview of fake news detection, and we have a tutorial is going to be held in Australia at the Wisdom Conference next year. You can also find more details in my website. I have a link, so we have all different slides and PDF available. You can look at. And we also have a book chapter to basically explore how we can detect fake news from the network analysis point of view. If you're interested in the network analysis, you can also take a look at it. And as I mentioned, we have software fake news tracker, which can be used in practice. And we have a data repository called Fake News Net. We have a GitHub link, Kaggle, so you can download and use it as for your exploration. So, and also we have other publications as well. In my all of the publications are in my webpage, so that you can get more comprehensive view of this topic. So at last, I will thank you for inviting me to talk about fake news. And this is my website, and I will be happy to take any questions. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Kai, for your very informative talk. Are there any questions?
For your talk. I have two questions. A very simple way that users have to defend themselves from fake news is to consider the prestige or lack of it of a publisher. My first question is, in your opinion, this has some merit, this feature? And my second question is, your probabilistic model is more like it's a kind of simulation of user behavior and engagement and so on.
Yeah. So so your first question is about do we explore the fake news from the speech point of view? Is that the question?
The prestige of a publisher, you know. Some publishers are well known to promote fake news, and
Yes.
and the contrary is also true. Is this feature has some merit in your opinion? It has some value?
Yes, I think that's a very good question. So I just talked about one of our piece of work is to consider this news content and the social context. So when we consider the relationship between the publisher and the news, we actually take this publisher bias into consideration. For example, if this publisher, like more in US, right, they're more likely to be left-oriented or right-oriented, or more likely to be mainstream media. So we use this kind of information. We take this information from one of the well-known websites. So they are using a lot of criteria to decide whether this publisher is the bias is more left, right, or more neutral. So we do use this information to model this relationship in that work. And as for your second question is about the probabilistic model in our unsupervised work. So yes, so in that model, the basic idea is that we try to use this model to, basically it's a generative model. We try to maximize the likelihoods of our observations. So what are the observations? One observation is users' opinions, right? So like this user agreeing or against this. We use some existing tools to extract the stance as our observations. That's the first. And then we also try to estimate the user's credibility, because we can basically see the user's historical data. We can look at how many fake news piece and real news piece this user has spread. Then we will use this observation to estimate the user's credibility level. So we use these two kinds of observations to simulate the user's credibility, and then try to learn this picture representation of the news. Yeah, that's the perspective.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah.
If there are any questions in Spanish, we can translate them to Kai. Si hay preguntas en español, se lo podemos traducir a Kai. ¿Alguien quiere preguntar en español?
Los medios de comunicación tradicional, por ejemplo los periódicos, ya es un hecho que serán cambiadas a las noticias, digamos, de redes sociales y otros social media. Que los medios de comunicación tradicionales están siendo cambiados hoy en día, pero ya serán plantados, ya no. Ajá.
So they are asking if the traditional media, traditional publishers now, like newspapers, are moving to social media, to electronic means. So, are you aware how do they cope with this problem of fake news? Because they also have sources and reporters, and I imagine that it is a big problem for them also, try to detect some fake news in order to avoid spreading the news. How are they coping? Are you aware of any work on, real, traditional publishers?
Yeah, I think the question is about how the traditional media outlets and the social media outlets, right? So we talked about this the differences of how fake news is spreading in traditional outlets and social media outlets. Basically, I think Dr. will have something to
okay. I think it's about now the traditional media also they have presence on social media, but normally it's all about the comments and the discussions, rebuttals, and how fake news detection work uses journalism. Basically, these sites, some sites, political and fact check, just a fact.
Yeah, some fact-checking website.
Fact-checking website.
They are hiring some
journalists,
journalist experts to look at these news pieces and then decide whether they're fake or not.
Yeah, but for the social media platforms of traditional media, this because traditional media, they have the responsibility to check before they can publish their news. So it's less a problem. But sometimes you can see the heated discussion under the news. For each news, usually they will allow readers to discuss. But then you can see all kinds of things. And a lot of people, some are trolls, some they just try to advertise their stuff. Some also can be campaign managers. They try to slip in their stuff. Yes, but we haven't to look at this kind of environment. No.
Okay, thank you.
Interesting.
Otra pregunta. One more question.
Mi pregunta es la siguiente. Se nos dice mucho de la inteligencia artificial que va a apoyar lo que es las industrias o las empresas. Claro ejemplo es lo que pasó con el banco, Banamex o Bancomer, que despidió a más de 1000 personas porque los sustituyó por un software artificial, de inteligencia artificial. Bueno, mi pregunta es, en la actualidad, ¿cómo podríamos mezclar a aquellas personas que no son programadoras, pero que les interesa aportar a la inteligencia artificial como, no, así como simples mortales, ¿no? Sin que sepan tanto de desarrollo de software? ¿Cómo poder hacer esto posible? Porque al final de cuentas, a quien resuelve la vida, la inteligencia artificial, es el mismo ser humano.
Okay. So I'm going to try to translate the question, and I'm going to also to particularize to the topic. The student is asking, in some sense, for a beginning student, you know, for a pre-grade student, what would be your advice in order for them to start, if they are interested in the study of the AI methods, and how can they apply to real life scenarios, you know? What would be your suggestion and your career advice, basically?
All right, so this is basically a student who wants to do research, right? You want to start a research? And okay, I would suggest first you just take an AI course. And Professor Romeo Sanchez, are you offering AI course?
Yes, yes, I am offering.
Okay, so take an AI course, number one, and then try to apply some of the algorithms you learned in AI or machine learning or data mining, and in the course projects, just try to work on this. Then you have some idea. Then you will start with research papers. So one way is to look at like a triple AI conference and the Wisdom, ICWSM. If you are interested in social media, there are some conferences. They are very interesting and what should I say, popular. Like they study, researchers, they study the current issues, okay? So there are machine learning conferences. If you, another straightforward way is you can get onto my website or Kai's website. You look at the conferences, we publish papers. Then you will see like, these are the conferences you publish. So you just go over there and look at the papers you are interested in. And so to summarize, one, start with the course, and if possible, apply some algorithm to some problems, existing problems, then work with your professors or senior students, and then you try to read more papers. I hope I understand. I answer your question.
Yes, thank you very much. And ¿alguna otra pregunta? Is there any other question? Yes. ¿Lo vas a en inglés?
Hi, I'm wondering, I have a question. Actually, we are working with campaigns in Instagram about analyzing posts, and we get the metrics with engagement, their engagement. We use a formula, comments, more likes, and between amounts, followers. And my question is, in a near future, we analyze, we will analyze 2,000 profile of influencer. Their goal is find the best profile. And what is your guess to find a better account that because now exist many accounts using bots, and what is your guess to we find the better profiles?
Yeah, I think the question is about understanding the user profiles on social media that so that they can be used in some way to detect fake news. So actually, we also have a recent paper published in a workshop, which is entitled "Understanding User Profiles on Social Media for Fake News Detection." So as you mentioned that users on social media, they can be credible and non-credible. So it's very important to understand these profiles, right? So in that paper, we analyzed the user profiles from various perspectives, such as these users' location, users' recent tweets, and their personality. So all of these perspectives focus on these user profiles, and then we try to understand what are the features or what are the characteristics of users who are more likely to share fake news and real news. So this paper is at the bottom. This is published in the workshop called "Understanding User Profiles on Social Media for Fake News Detection," and then you can learn more details on this issue.
Okay. Well, we thank you very much for being here with us today. We really appreciate Professor Liu and Kai taking your time, your busy time, for being here virtually in Mexico. And we are in Chiapas, which is the southern border state in Mexico. And we really thank you for participating in this second international workshop on AI and optimization. Please give an applause to the professor. And so we hope we keep in touch, and maybe in the future start collaborating on some of these issues. And thanks a lot.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. It's
Thank
our
you.
pleasure. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye bye.